Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the ConTechHQ Podcast. Today with me, I have Paul Burch from ServiceBox. How's it going, Paul?
Going great. Thanks a lot for having me.
Of course. Good to have you here. So today we're going to be talking about ServiceBox and everything that ServiceBox has to offer to the construction industry. How about we start from just give us a run through what ServiceBox is about and yeah, like what's been going on in ServiceBox?
Awesome. Well, yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity to chat. ServiceBox, we've been around for about 15 years, helping primarily the service industry, plumbing, heating, HVAC, electrical, anybody in that kind of construction space that needs to send somebody somewhere and track what's being done.
Nice.
So we've got a software solution to help people with that.
Oh, that's great. I find has been the briefest, sweetest description that I've
Great.
done so far.
Perfect. Perfect.
I like that a lot. Okay, so Paul, what do you have for us today? I see you have a presentation up on the screen.
Dude, yeah. Well, I wanted to give you a little taste of what our demos look like because basically, ServiceBox, it's custom software. It is meant to really help a business, but it becomes a part of your workflow. And so the step one is really making sure that it's a good fit for your company. So if you wanted to jump in, get a demo of the software, this is kind of what you're going to be doing with one of our sales team members. So what I wanted to show you here, and you should be seeing the scalable field service
Technically,
management.
you're giving us technically a day in the life.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. So this is I'm going to give you the abridged version of our demo.
Okay,
But
nice.
what we've got, typically when we get together with somebody, this is the core. We want to figure out if the challenge that you're facing can be solved with the software that we have, and talk about all the things that people come to a demo to find out, right?
Good.
So what I do see is the same problem. Doesn't really matter. Plumbing, heating, electrical, HVAC, whatever the company is dealing with, every company gets to a certain point where they've grown because they're good at what they do, and they've added team members organically, they've put in tools in place. And what happens is you get to a point where you've got all these different tools, you're not operating as efficiently as you'd like to be, and suddenly your revenue starts slowing down, right? Because you're not able to communicate with the team. We see this in every industry with every company. They get to a certain size. So that's really where ServiceBox comes in and can really shine. The one of the features that we really like about ServiceBox is our integration with QuickBooks Online. We've got some integrations with other accounting softwares as well. But the bottom line is we want to reduce duplication of effort at every step, right? So where there's no good creating all the work orders, turn them into invoices, and then having to handwrite them into your accounting software. So we've got this integration that works that way as well.
Good.
And people really like that. So what I'd like to do is actually dive in and show you the software and figure out
Perfect.
exactly how we can do that. And so I'm going to just share my screen here a little bit differently. And so if I share, okay. So yeah, getting back to ServiceBox, you should be seeing my dashboard now.
I am.
Okay, awesome. Well, I do have a couple things that I always just like to point out. Basically, what you and I are looking at here, this is a web-based application. When you're connected to the internet, you got the opportunity to share information with your team. You're getting real insight and updates. We've got an Apple and an Android app. Typically, your team member in the field is going to download that to their phone or their tablet, and it doesn't really matter what kind, as long as it's connected to the internet, it can do that. And what I'd love to do here is take you through a day in the life. And typically, what our users do, their customers are connecting with them. They're going to either send them an estimate or send somebody out to do some work. Then we're going to show you our scheduler and how our tool helps people schedule things, as well as how getting the job done, actually using our software in the field, which is who it was built for. This thing was built to be used in the field and make sure that the field technicians are making the office people's life a lot easier. And then I'd love to show you a few of the features. So if that sounds good, we can dive in.
Of course, man. Take it over.
Awesome. Well, as I mentioned, you don't have to start with a quote, but I always like to start with that quote or estimate because it kind of shows a bit of the magic, right? So what we do is we can create a quote here. And a few of the features that I like to point out, we operate, if you've got multiple locations, so you've got several offices you're operating out of, we've got a feature that allows you to deal with that. Otherwise, we're going to create a quote for a customer. You can create templates. So we work with you to show you how to create templates, and now you're going to save a bunch of steps as you create these installation services, whatever you want to do. The way our system works, it's set up to work with most accounting softwares, right? You got who gets the bill and you get where you're doing the work. So if you're doing residential, commercial, industrial, doesn't matter. Our system helps out with that. Now, as we look this up, you can just look up any kind of customer here. You've got the customer, and you can have multiple job sites, as I mentioned. So you can just quickly grab that. It's connected to Google or Apple Maps, so you know where you're doing. And then different statuses customized to whatever you need. So you've created this quote, you're sending the quote, it's being accepted or it isn't. If you need different steps or want to call it something else, you can do that. If your customers are supplying a PO number at this point, you can punch that in. It's going to show up on the quote, going to show up on the work order, going to show up on the invoice. If they're not, that's an optional field. This is our boilerplate. So basically every quote has all this information on it, and then you can just quickly and easily build out what it is you're doing, right? You're going to do the thing at the place, whatever the details go in terms of what it is you're going to be doing for this customer. Now that template that we selected is going to dictate what shows up in this field in the calculator, right? So you've got templates that outline all the time and materials that you're going to, this is going to allow you to bang out quotes very quickly and very accurately. Any questions there?
No, none so far.
Right. This is all customized and based on what your accounting categories are, right? So the office people love this. Basically, whatever you're keeping track of, we can do that. And we can dive into details, but basically, we break it out, materials, non-inventory materials, purchase orders, items. So however you want to kind of track stuff, in this area, you basically just make sure you want to charge your customers properly for whatever you're using. We've got an inventory tool that will actually keep track of what it is you're using. So if you got it in the warehouse or you got it in the guy's trucks, the inventory tool will help you figure out what it is that you got and where it is. We built this tool because guys were quoting on jobs thinking they had material and they didn't, and now they have to buy that material at whatever price they're charging. Or they go and buy more material because they don't think they have any, and it turns out it's all in one guy's truck, right? So the inventory tool helps kind of sort out that problem for them.
That's pretty smart.
Yeah. All of this is editable, so you can create your quote. It's got the boiler in there, but you can then update it. This is also an important point to realize. We help you build roles. And so each of your employees, each of the users can be assigned a different role. So obviously we're in a full administrative installation here. You're seeing the prices and the markup, the taxes and everything. Not everybody on your team needs to see that. And so what we do is we create different roles and we can assign people to that. So everybody just sees the information they need to do their job.
Oh.
Yeah, we got a couple other features that I like to point out, but the big one, basically we've got a tool called To-Dos. This is something you can use as an internal communication device. Something needs to be done, someone who needs to do it, how often you want to tell them to do that. And then we've got the attachments. This is where people could do PDFs, Word documents, links to files, but also this is photos. So if you're using your phone, you can take pictures, record a quick video and tie it to this quote, right? From here, we send this to the customer. The customer can actually accept it. So it can include a link and you can collect the digital signature. So somebody signs off on this. And now this quote's been awarded. This is why I start here, because basically once the quote's been awarded, you just turn it into a work order with a click. So you can start with a work order. You don't need to do a quote. Lots of people do, right? Somebody calls up, says, can you just send somebody to do some work? You send them out, they get there, and then they need to do a quote from there. You can actually turn a work order into a quote. We've gone the other direction. We've got all the quote in here. A couple of features here. We're going to assign it to somebody whoever's typically in charge of your scheduling. We have the option to send a notification to your customer, so you can let people know that you're coming to the job site when you're on your way. We can require signatures from your customer, from your employees, or both. And then other than that, these are all custom fields. So whatever you currently collect on your work orders or want to collect, with the ability to make these enforceable. So especially for customers coming from pen and paper, you've got the ability now to put these checks and balances in place so your team members will have to fill out these forms the way you want them to. So we create this work order, and now that this work order is created, it's about getting the guys into the field, right? And so what I like to do is show you the scheduler. Any questions about creating that work order so far?
I think it's It's been pretty like
Pretty straightforward, right?
self-explanatory so far. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So we've got this work order. How do we make sure somebody gets doing it? This is our scheduler, and we built this with two different modes. We basically got month, week, and day, so you can see what your calendar looks like and color coded by your resources and what kind of jobs they're doing. But dispatch mode is where most of our service companies live. And so basically you've got your team along the top. You can create different user groups. So if you just want to see your service department, just want to see the installation, just want to see your construction team, you can do that. And now you see everybody's schedule, you see who's available, and you can see these work orders that are available. And so now we've got this work order we just created. I see the guys I want to assign it to, and it's drag and drop. So we got this drag and drop scheduling option, and we can put as many people on this job as we want. So this really helps. You guys don't have to come into the office to pick up paper work orders, and you don't have to phone around giving people details. You got the work order, you drop it on their schedule, they pick it up on their phone, and now they know where they're going and what they're doing. We got options here too. So
That
basically,
saves so much time.
ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Yeah, no, when you think about the amount of time saved, people not needing to go pick up information, not needing to bring their timesheets in at the end of the day, it can be pretty
Question:
overwhelming. Yeah.
does this notify the person? So it's like I don't necessarily have to check. I get a notification and it's like, oh yeah, this is where I'm headed for today.
That's correct, yeah. So as you're assigning stuff, there's settings that allow you to notify your customers. And then the other thing is if I'm the technician in the field, when I log in, I get notifications from my device that tells me I've got stuff assigned. But also when I first open up my app and my day here, I can see my schedule. So every
Uh,
technician has their schedule in their hand, right? And so now I know where I need to go. I click into that work order, and now I'm here. So this is the work order. This is replaces the piece of paper that guys are taking out to the job site.
yeah.
We have a couple of features here. Basically, they can check in. This then starts tracking their time against this particular job. And so now you're actually making sure that you're accurately quoting jobs, right? So as
Yeah.
the guys, this is part of the customization and configuration too, right? Some people like to track time on the way to the job. They start tracking once the job started. They start tracking, in various ways. So we can help you put those processes in place and make sure you're getting the most out of this. But bottom line, it's tracking your time. So you guys got the work order. Now he just does his job like he's always been doing, right? He knows where he's going. He knows what he's doing. He's actually got the list of time and materials that were quoted, and he can load up his truck, head out to the job. That inventory item that we quoted, we can just add that. This is where I'm talking about. Am I pulling this out of the warehouse? Am I pulling it out of my vehicle? It keeps track of that. And so I've done the work, I add material. It's all connected to a database that you have. We help you put that information in so you can look something up, right? Like let's say I need an electronic component of some sort. The database has that information in here, so now you can help train your team to make sure that you're accurately tracking information and materials on the job site. This way you're really stopping that leakage, right? There's missing material. Asking guys to go back at the end of the week and keep track of what they have used on a job site, or
Yeah.
even at the end of the day, right? Forget it. So we can update that. A few other notes here. We've got talk to text. So they're on the job site, they're keeping these notes, right? Did the thing, went well. This is a talk to text field, so if they're using their device, they can speak their notes in there instead of having to use their thumbs to type. And you can add these notes, and this is an important one. I really like this piece about it. You can actually add individual units to these job sites. So for these guys that are they're going out to a job site, and it's got maybe 6 or 7 different HVAC units on it, different
Yeah.
refrigerator freezers. You can actually tie the work that you're doing to the specific unit you're using. Next time you're coming out to this job, you've got that work history on that unit, and you're not going to the job site without the right tools, right? Huge time savings we had there.
That's super important.
We also have checklists. So with checklists, basically you can create checklists, customer service, inspection checklists, stuff like that. People can then, or they have to fill that checklist out before they get the job done. We talked about to-dos. Historic notes work a lot like work notes, but are more not customer facing, right? A mean dog in the yard, customers only available after hours, stuff like that.
Mhm.
The attachments tied to the worksheet, so before and after pictures, pictures of the units you're working on, whatever you need there. Also just point out we got some administrative tabs here. Basically, you want to send invoices, you want to see what events are going on, you can update the schedule from here. Something of note is that ServiceBox is tied to the GPS, so you can actually see where your team is as they're checking in and out of the job, and you can see where they are as they're moving through their day. So it can really help with efficiency and accountability, right? You guys are where they say they are when they're checking in and out of the job sites, and you know, you're not sending somebody from the Northwest down into the Southeast if you've already got team members down in the Southeast, right? So it can really increase the efficiency. That's it. The guy's done his job. He checks out. And at this point, this is another piece where we've got some notification. When the job is done, because this job might be a couple hours, might be a couple days, might be a couple weeks, doesn't matter. As the guys are checking in and out of the job site, it's tracking their time against it. But at the end of it, they hit that trigger, and now this notifies whoever's in charge of invoicing that this job's ready to be invoiced for, right? So whoever's in charge of invoicing is able to just go in here. We've got a couple of different options. So with invoices, you can create right out of the system. So if the quote's the quote, you can do that. We actually have broken this into options. So if you just want to do a deposit invoice before you get started, you can do that. If you want to do a holdback invoice and only invoice for 90% so that you know, you can bill that remaining 10% once the sign off has happened, you can do that. If you want to just use time and materials, whatever options you want, we've got all sorts of quote invoicing options, and they just come straight from the quote. So whoever built the quote, whoever updated the work order, and then the invoice just is created without doing that duplicate data entry, right? The information from the quote and the work orders here, anything that was unbilled, we can reset that invoice. So now it's going to update any of the items that we've added, any stuff that we pulled from the inventory we've got in here. It's going to calculate taxes based on what you need to charge your customer. We help you configure that at the front end of your onboarding. And it even shows you a little profitability markup. Again, it's not going to be, the customer doesn't see that, but before you send this invoice, you can make sure that you're sending an invoice that's got the profitability to it, right?
Yeah.
After that, you send that. So that is basically your customers. You've created a quote, turned it into a work order, assigned it to your team, done the work, sent an invoice, and gotten paid. And basically, we've got the option, you can accept payment right through ServiceBox if you want. We use a secure provider, or you're just reporting, right? However your customer has paid you, you can keep track of that in here. Put that reference number that your accounting software needs, and then we have, I mentioned, that QuickBooks Online Sync. So not even your accountant needs to do the double entry. Whatever was on the work order, or whatever's on the invoice, will be put into QuickBooks for you, and keep your accounting up to date. So that's very much the day in the life of ServiceBox. There's a couple other features that I always like to show. Would you be interested in seeing them?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Awesome. Well, they came about, I showed you the scheduler, but one of the things that I really like is the customer area. The way we've organized this is essentially we've got your customers, and it's all sort of in searchable, but within the customers, you've got the locations, and so within the customer locations, you also have the equipment on site. So what you have the ability to do is, as we talked about, you can keep contract information here. So a lot of people use this for the recurring and preventative maintenance contracts, right? So you keep track of your contracts, but basically it'll keep track of all the equipment that you've got on site. And this way you're never going to roll out to a job site that you've been to before without the right equipment, right? Keep track of have a picture of it, serial numbers, details, as much or as little information as you need to collect about the equipment that's on there, and it keeps that history for you. The other piece I'd like to show is that recurring work. So within the recurring work piece, basically what you've got the ability to do is create a scheduled work order. So this is for stuff, quarterly inspections, annual services, stuff like that. You create that contract, you have it repeat as often as you want. So if it's a monthly thing or a quarterly inspection, and from there you create that work order, and it will actually just show up to be scheduled, or it will show up on a schedule. So if you got the same guy doing the same thing at the same place, it'll just show up on their schedule. If you have a job that needs to be done every 3 months, it'll show up on the schedule to be worked into your work orders. So quite a good tool there. Timesheets, yeah, it's tracking as those guys log in and out of their jobs, they are actually tracking their time against the work orders. So you can get your team paid. This is going to take over your timesheet piece. You can collect whatever kind of time you want. So this replaces any sort of paper timesheets you're using or a QuickBooks timesheet. Can get that submitted to whoever needs to make sure your team's getting paid. The inventory tool I mentioned, built to kind of keep track of what's in the trucks versus what's in the warehouse. And it's got a few features like the reorder form. So when your items get to a certain threshold, whoever's in charge of that gets a notification that that piece needs to be ordered. You can move them about, keep a little bit of extra kind of information about where stuff is. And then the big thing is that anything that goes into ServiceBox can come out of it. I would mention we've got this vendor order tool as well, but for timelines, basically what we've got, the ability, if you're placing material orders and you want to keep track of where that order is and whether it's been shipped out to your job sites or not, we've got a tool for that as well. I'd love to show people that in the demo. But the big one is the reporting. Everything that goes into ServiceBox can come out of it. So you've got the ability to do job costing reports, your checklist, your inventory, your maintenance, understanding. This is the piece that turns the extra time into profitability for our customers, right?
Okay.
You mentioned it's pretty wild when you think about how much time can be saved by using the digital assigning and stuff. Once you've saved that time, you've got the ability to run these reports and make sure that you're quoting efficiently, make sure your team is performing properly, make sure that the customers are customers, because if they're not paying on time or they're not paying the right amount, then it's a little bit detrimental to the growth of your business. So yeah, that's very much ServiceBox.
I think one key thing that I would like to state or say is that and I've said it already, is that this platform, if used efficiently, will save so much time. It will save a ridiculous amount of time between like all of the processes that we go through. And just hearing you go through this demo, and like, I think people really need to get into ServiceBox.
Well, I certainly agree. And it really is at every step, right? And it's just those sort of things that you get into business and you start your business because you're good at something and you find customers that are willing to pay for it. And then you start putting processes in place that allow you to do that. But when you reach a point where you're ready for ServiceBox, at every stage, it really can be jarring when people start crunching the numbers on the time that they're spending, and when you start comparing that to billable time, the amount of time that your guys are spending passing paper around, or the time that the people in the office are waiting for stuff or copying from one piece of paper to another. So it really is kind of mind blowing. Now that is to say, this isn't an app. This isn't I often say it's not Uber. You don't download it and away you go and your car shows up and changes your life. This is a business tool. There's quite a bit of process that goes into making sure that you and your team work with it. And ServiceBox works with people on that. Our customers come in, we schedule a series of onboarding meetings. They're one-on-one like this. You'll be working with one of our specialists, and we help you map out that process. What does your day-to-day look like, and how is it going to work with ServiceBox? And so in that case, we are helping you implement this into your business and identifying those areas that you're going to save all that time with.
Yeah, I think just really emphasizing on the aspect of like saving time. I remember you talking about like the text to speech or speech to text rather feature, and I think that's super key in an environment like ours. Like just not having to take off your work gloves or anything, to putting like a note in the platform. I think that's super, and for me, it's little things like that I see as like the actual like time savers, like it's just the little things like that like the thought that goes into that, and honestly super commendable.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to say.
Thanks. Well, and that's it, because you can put whatever processes you want in place, you can put whatever tools you want in place. If your team doesn't use it,
Yeah,
then it's not going to be any good.
exactly.
And this was built with that in mind. We got guys that, you know, we got technicians that want to be on the tools. They're good at what
Yeah,
they do. They enjoy it. We don't want to, we don't want to be a barrier between them and finishing up their work,
exactly.
right? Yeah. So that's the exactly the idea, you know, how this works and what we're looking at. Actually, I don't know. Looking at. Normally in the demo, we then of course talk pricing, because we, especially after we have covered off the amount of time that you're looking at saving and how you're going to be able to grow your business. That is a very important question, obviously, and
Yeah, of
so
course.
the service box pricing is based on two factors. Essentially, it's how many users you have and which of our feature sets you need. And so what we've got is we bundle our pricing, the first 6 users, the first 10 users, first 15 users, upwards there. We have a lot of companies in that kind of 6 to 15 users. We've got lots of companies over that. So it doesn't really matter how big your company is or how small it is. If you're having communication concerns, if you're interested in understanding the profitability and job costing, we can help you out. And our pricing is based on whether or not essentially you're needing the premium tools like the inventory, the vendor management, multi-location tools. And so, yeah, what we found is that when you compare a couple of hours of billable work that you're probably missing because you're not using a tool like this to the subscription price that that ServiceBox has, it just becomes a no-brainer, right? This is a matter of how quickly can you implement ServiceBox to start saving money and growing revenue, as opposed to
Yeah,
the expense of a new software, right?
yeah,
So, and that is part of our goal too. Like I mentioned, there is an onboarding process. We work with your team in a series of meetings. We're going to help you configure the software to your business. We're going to help your administrative team understand how to create quotes, run reports, assign work. We're going to help your technicians in the field understand how to track their time and materials, use those features like the work notes. And we really want to get you through that series of meetings as quickly as possible. But we want to make sure that your team is really comfortable and ready to use the software and change the way you do business, right?
great, awesome. I just had one question actually.
Please.
Well, maybe two.
Okay.
Um, I would say, aside like how much time service box saves like or helps clients save, what would you say is like something else, like a distinguishing feature of service box to other platforms in the industry?
Yeah, there's other software out there that does similar things. And where I see us positioned, there's a couple of software tools. They do a ton of things and they have the price tag to go along with it. And so there are some very strong, expensive tools out there. There are also some tools out there that were built. They're great for sort of one-off jobs and uh, more residential one-off type calls.
Yeah,
And they're moving into this HVAC, plumbing, heating, electrical space. This is where we were born. This is where we play.
yeah,
And so really what we've seen, the integration with the accounting, setting our stuff up, one of our main programmers right out of the gates was a very accounting background. And so this is a very accounting friendly software.
oh,
We're also very commercial residential friendly in terms of multiple locations. And the other tool that I think is very strong is our recurring preventative maintenance and contracts. We really help people. So the step one is to kind of stop the bleed and understand where you're wasting time with duplicated efforts and unnecessary travel back and forth.
hmm,
Step two is grow your revenue. So being able to add more preventative maintenance contracts, keep track of jobs, understand and suggest options to your customers because you've got the history, right? You can see everybody's had a phone call where they've gone out to do some work, recommended to a customer that they do something, and 6 months later the customer is contacting and wondering why this wasn't done. And you've got that history that says, no, no, I recommended you do this 6 months ago, and happy to come out, and I know exactly what we need to do because we've got that history, right? So opportunities to reduce your overhead and your waste, but then opportunities to increase your revenue.
Perfect. Perfect. Um, I guess that brings me to my next question, which is what would you say? I mean, just obviously it's just stuff that you feel like you could share. Because I know that there's definitely a lot of things that are going on in the background. But my question would be what's one thing that you could tell people that are going to watch this about like where ServiceBox is headed in the next say 12 months? Like let's say what new features or if you can share, because I know
Yeah.
there's like stuff that
I remember. Yeah, I promise not to give away any of the secret sauce, but yeah, no, definitely. I think that it's interesting in the tech industry. Um, Speed can kill, right? You want to make sure that you're not blowing it. We have customers that this is how they run their business, and so we want to be really careful that we're not rolling out new features that are going to cause them headaches. We want people to be happy with things are going. So that said, I'm really excited because ServiceBox got built listening to our customers, right? And
Mhm.
that's why we have the preventative maintenance. That's why we have the inventory tool. That's why we've got the vendor order area. We listen to the customers, and that's the direction that we head. So our customers have started to give us some really clear messages around what they now expect from their field service management software. And I think in the coming in the upcoming time here, you're going to see more integration with different accounting softwares. You are going to see an update to our look. You'll see that we're the software itself is very stable, but we haven't given it a real polish. So we're going to update a little bit, make sure that it's user friendly.
Yeah,
And some of the features that people have been asking for, improvements on our checklists and some of those types of tools you're going to see. But uh, basically, we want to make sure that our software is very stable. We want to make sure it's doing what people need. And I think there's a lot of fad going on right now, and the AI revolution is driving
yeah.
change, whether it's good or bad. And so I would tell people that you can expect ServiceBox to continue to be a reliable tool and to answer the questions that our customers are asking and keeping pace with the industry. I think there's a lot of change going on in the industry, and we want to make sure that we evolve along with our customers' needs.
I really like the idea of listening to the customer because you don't want to be you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're making updates or changes and like they're not, actually addressing like your customer needs or just making changes because the industry is changing.
Yep.
So I really like the idea of listening to the customers and like, yeah, giving them what they want.
No.
But yeah, honestly, this has been great so far. Those are all my questions because
Great.
your demo and your entire presentation answered pretty much everything that I would have wanted to ask. So yeah,
Well, that's the feeling we want when people come into the real demo.
yeah,
And it's funny because when you're selling anything, people have some basic questions, and they're not. Nobody wants to commit to a massive amount of time without knowing kind of the basics. But we really have found taking that 30-minute demo, take the 60-minute demo, find out if this is the right fit for you. That's very much our goal. And so yeah, we've got a product, and it's quite specific, and it can be a great game changing tool for businesses. So always happy for an opportunity to show it off.
agreed. Well, that honestly is it from my end. I'm super glad we were able to do this. Thank you
Yeah.
for taking time out. I know you're pretty busy, so
Yeah, well, I appreciate, yeah, no, and, yeah, never too busy to talk about ServiceBox.
appreciate that. Appreciate that. Okay.
Okay, thank you
Thank you
very
so
much.
much, Paul. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Bye.